Okay, if you're gearing up for a biology exam, you've absolutely got to know about the invisible architects that, well, build our entire world. Think of this as your essential guide to the microscopic kingdom.
You know, it's a classic science question for a reason. Because inside that one little drop, there's a whole bustling universe of life, way too small for our eyes to see. And honestly, understanding this tiny world is key to understanding, well, all of biology.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the very first peek into this hidden world. Then we'll zoom right in on cells, meet the mighty microbes themselves, and finally, we'll see the huge impact they have on our planet.
So how did we even find out this world existed in the first place? Well, it all came down to a game-changing piece of tech, the microscope.
Now for your exam, you'll want to jot these two names down. Back in the 1660s, you had Robert Hooke, who was the first to identify these structures he called cells. And then there was Antonie von Leeuwenhoek. With his seriously powerful lenses, he became the very first person ever to lay eyes on living microorganisms. When Robert Hooke peered at a super thin slice of cork, he saw all these tiny, empty boxes. You know what they reminded him of? The small rooms or cells where monks lived. And boom, just like that, one of the most important words in all of biology was born.
So we've gone from Hooke's first glimpse of a dead cork cell to realizing we're talking about the fundamental unit of all life.
This right here is probably the most important analogy to remember. It doesn't matter if it's a giant redwood tree, a tiny little fly, or you and me. Everything is built from these basic blocks. Cells really are the bricks of life.
So, what are these bricks actually made of? Let's break down the three main parts of an animal cell. First up, you've got the cell membrane. You can think of it like a security guard or a gatekeeper for the cell. It's super careful about what it lets in and out, keeping the inside separate from the outside world.
Now inside that membrane, you find the cytoplasm. And it's not just some empty goo. It's more like a busy, jelly-like workshop where all the really important chemical reactions for life are happening.
And finally, the nucleus, the brain of the whole operation. This is the control center. It holds all the instructions for how the cell grows and what it does. So let's lock those three in: the membrane, the cytoplasm, and the nucleus. Okay, exam spotlight time. Not all cells look the same, and this is a big one. On the screen, you can see a pretty typical plant cell next to an animal cell. Just by looking at them, can you see some of the big differences? The plant cell on the left looks way more rigid, kind of rectangular, right? This table is perfect for your revision notes. Plant cells have three key things that animal cells just don't. First, a rigid cell wall that gives them structure. Second, chloroplasts. Those are the little green solar panels that do photosynthesis. And third, one big central vacuole for storage and support. Seriously, remember those three differences. They love asking about this stuff.
All right, so we've got the building blocks down. But now let's zoom in even closer and meet the incredible microorganisms, the microbes that Leeuwenhoek first saw just dancing around in that drop of water. Just take a look at this. It gives you a sense of the sheer variety of life in a world that's totally invisible to us. And these microbes aren't just in some far-off, weird places. They are literally everywhere, in the air we're breathing right now, in the water we drink, and in the soil right under our feet.
Now, to keep things organized, scientists usually lump these microbes into four major groups. You've got bacteria, fungi, which includes things you might know like yeast and mold, protozoa, and algae. And believe me, each one of those groups is incredibly diverse all on its own.
And when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. These little guys are the ultimate survivors. They can thrive in boiling hot springs and in frozen Antarctic ice. And of course, they live inside us. In fact, you actually have more microbial cells in your body than human cells. Many of them, like the ones in your gut, are absolutely critical for keeping you healthy.
Okay, so they're tiny, they're tough, and they're all over the place. But what do they actually do? Well, in this last section, we're going to see how these invisible architects quite literally build and run the world we live in.
Just think about it for a second. Every leaf that falls, every animal that dies. If there wasn't something to take care of all that, our entire planet would just be buried in organic junk. So what happens to all of it?
Yep, microbes are the answer. They are nature's ultimate recycling team. They get in there and break down all that complicated dead material into simple nutrients. And those nutrients go right back into the soil, ready to help new plants grow. It's this perfect, beautiful cycle, and it's all driven by microbes.
And here's a great way to see one of these processes in action. It's a super simple experiment, but it perfectly shows fermentation. That balloon is blowing up because of carbon dioxide gas. And where's the gas coming from? It's being released by yeast, a type of fungus, as it happily munches on the sugar in the bottle.
This is the exact same thing that makes our bread so light and fluffy. When you add yeast to dough, it starts feeding on the sugar and releasing all these tiny bubbles of carbon dioxide gas. Those bubbles get trapped inside the dough, making the whole thing expand and rise. It's literally microbiology happening right there in your kitchen. And the examples just go on and on. You have lactobacillus bacteria that ferment milk to make things like curd. There's Rhizobium bacteria that live in plant roots and give them natural fertilizer by pulling nitrogen right out of the air. And get this, tiny microalgae in our oceans produce more than half of the oxygen we breathe. Wow!
So it's pretty clear this invisible world isn't just some random science trivia, it's absolutely essential to life as we know it. They make the oxygen we breathe, they recycle the nutrients for all new growth, and they help make so much of the food we eat. These tiny organisms are the real architects of our planet. Which brings us to a final, really fascinating question. What's the next huge problem we're going to ask these tiny helpers to solve for us?